have, with disgust and anger, but it didn't. What arose out of that raid was hope, understanding, and action. Out of that raid came the Diversity Task Force, which we were a part of. And out of the Diversity Task Force came 20 recommendations, 19 of which were adopted by the city of Fort Worth quicker than any city in the United States has ever adopted these recommendations. They range from the chief of police writing a letter to every new potential recruit to specifically say, we want you. We don't care what your sexual orientation is. We don't care what your race is. We don't care if you're transgender. We want you. And that's the first time in this city's history that anybody of that ilk had done that. The primary reason that Fairness Fort Worth was formed was to facilitate witnesses coming forward at a neutral location to give their statements to the police. That's what we did. And we had attorneys there to facilitate if need be, and it was at Celebration Community Church. But as we were meeting in the formation of Fairness Fort Worth, we decided that perhaps this organization could continue to be sort of a clearinghouse for the needs of our communities, and also a connective tissue between our community and the city of Fort Worth. And so that's what we did. Some of the accomplishments they're numerous, but for instance, some of the large accomplishments have been, we partnered with the Department of Justice and put on a seminar on the Hate Crimes Act for most of the North Texas police officers in this area. Also, we partnered with the White House to put on a seminar at UTA dealing with safe communities, where the Attorney General Holder came and spoke. We continue to have, and continue to have today, a relationship with the Fort Worth Police Department. After the Diversity Task Force met and made its recommendations, that could have been it. But both we and the police department decided that there needed to be a continued link between our community and the Fort Worth Police Department. And that exists today, due in no short measure to Chief Halstead and people like Tracy Knight, the LGBT liaison. For that, we thank you. Over 2 years ago, Joel Burns and I and the late Tom Annable began meetings with the Fort Worth Independent School District because LGBT kids were killing themselves. And they were doing that because of who they were or who they were perceived to be. And it had to stop. And so we met with them over a 2-year period, and out of it came the most comprehensive anti-bullying policy in this state, if not the nation, specifically mentioning sexual orientation and gender identity, with specific examples of what bullying means to those specific people. And there is no policy and procedure in this state, if not this country, that is as comprehensive as that policy. That policy last week was copyrighted to be sold to other school districts. Not everything we do has that big an impact, and yet it does have that big an impact to individuals. For instance, you may have read last year there were some teenagers who decided to spray paint some cars in Arlington with graffiti. One of those cars they sprayed with homophobic graffiti, and that car belonged to a lesbian couple. We met with the assistant district attorneys to talk about how that case should go forward. Not to convince them what punishment, jail time, etc. to mete out, but to emphasize how devastating that was to those two people and to our community. And what we requested was this, that whatever the punishment was, part of that punishment would be and include community service with an LGBT organization. And that's exactly what happened. Those people who have pled guilty, and all but one have, are going to do community service at either the AIDS Outreach Center or the Samaritan House. But there are other and continuing concerns that we have. Somewhere in this country today, somewhere in this state, on a Sunday, a preacher will stand in a pulpit and he will utter the words, perversion, abomination, damned to hell. And there will be a boy sitting next to his parents who will watch his father say yes, and watch his mother pat her husband on the knee in appreciation of that. What does that have to do with us in Fairness Fort Worth? A few weeks ago, a mother called me, and her child was at a Christian academy. The child, 15 years old, thought that he might possibly be gay. He confided this information to a friend of his, a girl. He thought that because he might have a crush on a boy, he might be gay. This information got to the principal, and the principal informed the mother that that child was no longer welcomed at that school. And so that mother called me to ask what to do about it. She said to me, you know, I'm a single mother, I don't understand the gay lifestyle, and my son won't talk to me. And I said, okay, first of all, there's nothing you can do against that school. It's a private school, it takes no federal funds, it can be as bigoted and prejudiced as it wants to. I said, but you and your son need help. The only reason she called me was because I was president of Fairness Fort Worth. And I told her, I said, listen, if you're using the term gay lifestyle with me, you need help. I said, you know, people in my community did not wake up one day and look outside and say, gosh, it's a beautiful day, I think I'll be gay. So you need to understand what it means to be gay. I said, your son, who won't talk to you, I said, it reminds me of being 15 and being convinced that my parents were dumb as posts. I said, and he needs help. I said, there are people in Fort Worth who have gone through exactly what you've gone through. And I gave them the name and the number of PFLAG. And that's where she got help. And that happened because Fairness Fort Worth exists. What that shows you is that although we have statutes, we have laws, we have ordinance, which are supposed to change the conduct of people, we need to help change people also. We need to provide them with the information necessary so that a woman like that can find help when she feels that there is no help. So, by those examples, I show you that Fairness Fort Worth is a resource, sort of a clearinghouse for people and information, both governmental organizations and individuals. And the future focus of Fairness Fort Worth is in these kinds of areas. Partner benefits for all government employees, like the City of Fort Worth has. Policies which protect LGBT employees, which the City of Fort Worth has. And by the way, that includes transgendered persons. Let me pause a moment. The transgendered community is minuscule. And it happens to be the most oppressed entity, persons in the United States. It's underrepresented, and it has suffered so much. And our community, LGBT, has for so long forgotten the T. But we're not going to forget it anymore. And we're going to be working in the areas of policies and procedures for hospitals. Now, there are already governmental, federal guidelines to protect a partner whose partner is in the hospital. But just last week in Kansas City, a partner who had a power of attorney, which is, by the way, not necessary under the federal guidelines, but had a power of attorney, got into an argument with the brother of his partner who had no authorization. It ended up with a nurse making the determination as to who should win and who should lose. What that tells you is that although there may be guidelines, those guidelines are not being enforced, and those nurses, those employees, that personnel has no clue about what to do in that situation. And we want to make sure that every single hospital in this city has specific policies and procedures which have been implemented to take care of that situation. The last area I'm going to talk about is the police department has started a program to take care of some of the problems of homeless youth. Statistically, a disproportionate percentage of homeless youth are LGBT. They live at Forest Park. They live all over the place, and they need help. And this city, with its assets, can bring together those people who deal with housing, health care, education, psychological help, to come together to take care of these youth, because the figures aren't tremendous, so that the help for these kids is doable in this city if we can organize it. So those are some of the things that we'll be dealing with. I look around here and I ask myself, why are you here? You're straight, you're gay, all walks of life. What caused you to be here? And I think it's because you care about something. You care about human beings. For instance, you pick up the paper, you turn on the TV, and you see these massive waves hitting the shores of Japan, and you feel something. You look at and feel the explosions in Boston. You feel something. You see the astronaut step off onto the moon, one small step, and you feel something. It's visceral. It's not a planned emotion. It just is. And why is that? It's because we're all connected. You know, whether we like it or not, whether we acknowledge it or not, we feel these emotions because underneath all of the veneer, we care about each other. And that's what Fairness Fort Worth is about. And so tonight, I would ask you to get involved with Fairness Fort Worth. Volunteer or give money or both. And there are cards on the table, and we've got them up here with our P.O. Box number and other contact information. But please, because you care, get involved. Thank you.